All right, guys, we'll start the show shortly. A lot to cover on a Monday. Monday is always loaded with news from the weekend. I remember, so my first job out of UVA was at the working for the Daily Progress. Finished as the youngest editor in the history of the Daily Progress. And we used to have this joke in the newsroom amongst the various departments in the newsroom, whether it was the UVA beat writer, the sports UVA beat writer, the education UVA beat writer, the Albemarle County beat writer, the real estate beat writer, the business beat writer. I was an editor, and we would all get together around the water cooler or having a coffee, or whether maybe we're at happy hour after our shift was over, and we would always say the best news day was Monday because we had the weekend to accumulate a lot of stuff to cover. Oftentimes, your slowest news days are on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Now, if you're an institution, if you're a city, a government, a municipality, and you're looking to cover news or get news to kind of fly under the radar, or if it's like a big deal and you don't want a lot of attention, let's say someone gets fired, or let's say it's a financial discrepancy that you're trying to hide, you always release that news at on Friday, close of business. You release the news Friday and close of business because it won't probably make the news cycle until the following Monday, after the reporters have a chance to see the press release. They're off for the weekend. Maybe they're not working as hard on the weekend. So it's kind of funny, the various news cycles and how it impacts people in the business or people that are kind of trying to disguise something within the business. A lot to cover today. Obviously, we'll talk about that tough loss for Virginia basketball. The loss for Virginia not only impacts us as Wahoo Nation, but it impacts us as people that want to see the Charlottesville economy do well. When UVA hoops does well, just like when UVA baseball and UVA football do well, more people go to bars and restaurants to watch the game. With Virginia getting bounced in the first round, that undoubtedly will damper some excitement when it comes to going out, spending money, and watching the game. So that's something to consider. We'll assess what went wrong with Tony's team. When you don't practice for an entire week, you're going to have issues from a stamina and leg standpoint. Not making excuses for a loss, but that certainly played a factor yesterday. Barbara Lundgren, hello. Welcome to the broadcast. If you guys could give the show a like and a share, we will start in a matter of moments. Hit the like button and share the show, please. Jennifer in Belmont, hello. We love when you watch the show, Jennifer. You and your husband. You're watching the show on the big screen? Oh, that is awesome, Jennifer. I love when I hear that folks are streaming the shows to their big screen at home and just watching it as if they're watching TV. Kyle, welcome to the program. Kyle is watching in Keswick, Crozet, Virginia. Hello. A lot of folks in Northern Virginia we see on our heat map right here. Smith, not Keith Smith, my friend, but Smith Marshall watching the show. Hello, Smith Marshall. I haven't seen you on the broadcast in a while. How are you? Are you traveling for work, Smith Marshall? If so, whereabouts are you today? I would imagine in an airport somewhere. Give the show a like and a share anywhere you're watching, and we will start in a matter of moments here on the I Love CVille show. Hello, Aaron King. How are you, friend? I miss seeing you, Aaron King. Are you doing well? Aaron King is one of the best marketers I know. I sincerely mean that. She knows I sincerely mean that. I'm a huge fan of Aaron King on this network. Judah Wickhauer is our director. Spencer, hello. Welcome to the broadcast, Spencer. We love when you watch the show. Spencer Norte. Spencer Norte, where are you watching today, Spencer Norte? Richmond? Richmond, Virginia is in the house, guys. This show is dynamic. You can interact with the program. We'll talk marketing and promotions. Did you see Krispy Kreme is offering a free donut? A free donut per day to anyone who goes to Krispy Kreme and shows them a vaccination card. How cool is that? Judah Wickhauer, Weekend Lock and Low when you're ready. Johnny Ornalis, hello. Olivia Branch. What's up, Olivia? Johnny Ornalis, thank you for sharing the show. Olivia Branch, I love the glasses in your profile picture. You always look fabulous and stylish. Olivia Branch. Judah, I am in your hands, sir. Tell us what to do. I'll follow your instruction. Guys, welcome to the I Love Seville show. My name is Jerry Miller. It's great to be with you on a Monday. Any day you're above the mud is a reason to celebrate and just enjoy life. I mean, look outside here in Charlottesville in Central Virginia. Spring has sprung. I think we're all in good spirits. We got vaccinations getting in people's arms. And in Charlottesville, I hope, I pray, returning to a new sense of normalcy. What that new normalcy is, only time will tell. But it's something that makes my heart happy, man. It's something that makes my heart happy, seeing people out and about and enjoying this city that I'm proud to call home. Again, thank you for joining us in the program, live in Charlottesville, the Commonwealth, the country, and the world on the I Love Seville network. So much on today's program. We're presented and powered by Ting. Ting is crazy fast internet. If you want to use Ting, which we utilize on this show, the link is iloveseville.ting.com. iloveseville.ting.com, and you can save $289 on the best internet in Charlottesville. I mean, it's absolutely fantastic. A lot I want to cover on today's show. I want to talk UVA getting bounced from the tournament. We'll lead the show with that. We'll also talk about the first promotion I have seen from a vaccination standpoint. It's coming from Krispy Kreme. If you go to any Krispy Kreme in the world and you show them your vaccination, you get a free donut every day throughout the rest of the year. I mean, guys, we are in March right now, and Krispy Kreme is saying, go to one of our locations, show us proof of vaccination, we'll hook you up with a free donut every day through December 31st. I want to break that down, and I want to brainstorm some ideas of how this can apply to locally owned businesses, okay? Some of the best ideas originate kind of like at the top of the spectrum, and I think the businesses that have success pull innovation and ideas from big cities like San Francisco, New York City, Chicago, Miami, or big companies like Krispy Kreme, McDonald's, and apply those ideas to their locally owned brands. We knew the world was going to this live streaming environment before anybody else, because we follow major players in this space like Gary Vaynerchuk. And years ago, he was saying, get ahead of this. The first to market's going to win. That's what we did. So we're going to apply that same thinking of trying to pull ideas from innovative businesses that have billions of dollars in market capitalization, and then take those ideas and apply them to a mom and pop business that may have hundreds of thousands of dollars of revenue. So that idea on that topic on today's show. We'll talk real estate. Real estate's a passion of mine, especially commercial real estate. There are 3 buildings that are now for sale within touching distance of each other. The Music Resource Center and the 2 Greyhound bus buildings. There's the terminal and then the building right next to it. These 3 buildings basically touch each other. They're now on the market for sale. We will brainstorm the possibilities for this little area here in Charlottesville. On Wednesday, I'm going to welcome Nick Ward to the broadcast. Nick Ward is a friend of the program. He's a senior equity analyst at Wide Moat Research. We're going to look at these buildings and a handful of other ones, including the one that's for sale on the downtown mall, the yellow building right off East High Street as you get into the downtown mall area that's also for sale. And we will analyze the price, the asking price. We will analyze the true market value. We will analyze rent rolls and the possibility of return on investment with someone, Nick Ward, who's a senior equity analyst at Wide Moat Research, who does this for a living. He came on the program months ago, and we assessed shopping centers like Barracks Road and Fifth Street Station. Federal Realty owns Barracks Road Shopping Center. Shopping centers like Stonefield, which is owned by a private equity company, outside of New York City. And it kind of broke down the mechanics of these locally owned shopping centers. We're going to go even more micro than that on Wednesday with Nick and analyze individual pieces of property with someone who does this for a living. Wednesday at 12:30 for him. Home sales. Let's talk residential. According to the National Association of Realtors, February, home sales dropped 6.6% compared to January. Now we're in this predicament. We've been in this predicament for a while where we don't have the supply to meet the demand. The current Charlottesville Albemarle Association president is Quentin Beckham. He's a good friend of the show. Mr. Beckham, I call him QB, very sharply dressed guy. I love the salmon blazer this gentleman wears. QB was in the Daily Progress today or yesterday, talking about the need to change some zoning. And if we're able to update some zoning around Central Virginia, then potentially we can get more supply on the market. That is, I'm all for getting more housing. I'm all for everyone having a piece of the American dream, and part of that American dream still includes home ownership, the white picket fence, and some backyard for the kids to run around. I'm in favor of more housing inventory, but we know that there are many in Central Virginia who are opposed to more housing inventory. And these folks use this logic. If we limit supply from a housing standpoint, these are already homeowners. They say if we limit supply, if we keep the zoning the same, our home values will uptick because it's a basic supply and demand situation. Furthermore, they don't want to deal with the traffic, the congestion of added inventory. I'm going to take a deep dive on that on today's program from every side standpoint. We will also welcome Keith Smith to the broadcast. I spent the Sunday afternoon happy hour with my family at Shadwell's restaurant on Pantops. I want to share our experience at Shadwell's that recently reopened. Shadwell's is we have some pictures which Judah will put on screen in the 1 o'clock hour. Shadwell's used their PPP money to build a super dope patio. Like it's a brand new patio they built that seats easily 30 people. I was really impressed with PK, the owner of Shadwell's, and Ben Thompson, that's the ownership group, of how they applied the PPP money to Shadwell's to create this outdoor dining oasis where folks felt comfortable eating outside. We'll relay that story to you. We will remind you to mark your calendars for April 6th. In fact, why don't I look at April 6th? April 6th on the calendar is a Tuesday at 12:30. On this network, Kathy Galvin, former Charlottesville City Councilor, will be on this microphone and this chair. We will have all the Democratic candidates in this studio, and we will host a live debate on the I Love Seville network that is, without question, going to be the most watched debate in Charlottesville history. No one's going to be able to dispute that fact. In fact, the current most watched debate in Charlottesville, Virginia history is the one I hosted with Michael Payne and Lloyd Snook in late 2019. No coincidence, those two gentlemen came on a live debate and they won 2 of 3 spots on city council. They got a ton of visibility here. We're going to do the same thing with the 4 council candidates on the 6th of April. Carl Brown, Brian Pinkston, Yaz Washington, and Juan Diego Wade. The show is interactive, and why I emphasize and bring that to your attention is you can offer perspective in the comment section: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Snapchat, TikTok, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iTunes, iloveseville.com. And the comments that you put in this section will change or influence the pace and tempo of this show. So if you want to have a topic, or you want me to cover, or you want to add some discussion, add something to the discussion today, just put it in the comment section. I will relay it on air. The first headline, J-Dubs, Judah Wickhauer, our fabulous director, I think it's got to be the University of Virginia. Oftentimes with the rundown, that's news talk for the topics on a show. The rundown's on screen, which you can see. I do that to give you an idea of what I'm going to talk about. Oftentimes with the rundown, I try to do sports at the back end, but today I'm going to do sports on the front end. And why I'm going to do that is it's a big deal that UVA lost in this tournament. I'm going to get a couple things off this chest. I'm going to look off my chest. I want to look at it not just from a basketball standpoint, not just from a what's next for UVA standpoint, but from a local economy standpoint. Let's talk the game first. UVA lost to Ohio. It was Saturday night. We were all looking forward to this game. Ohio, a team none of us really knew about. Ohio, a mid-major. Virginia, a 7-point favorite going into this ball game. Couple of things working against the University of Virginia. I'm not making excuses here, okay? I'm just stating facts. UVA hadn't practiced for about a week. because of COVID. Remember, UVA beat Syracuse in the ACC tournament, and then immediately after Reese Beekman hits the game winner against Jim Boeheim's Syracuse Orange, UVA realizes it could no longer play in the ACC tournament because of COVID. It turns out Mr. McCoy, a valuable reserve on this basketball team, is the guy that had the COVID scare, the contact tracing with COVID, whatever it's called. He couldn't play. As a result of this situation, Virginia basketball not only had to stop playing in the ACC tournament, but they had to take essentially a week off from practice, fly to Indianapolis on Friday, literally on Friday, and then play a basketball game not even 24 hours later. It's no coincidence that Virginia basketball, at the end of the first half and the second half, it looked like they didn't have the legs to finish the 20 minutes of play. Did you notice that as well? It looked like in a lot of cases they didn't get off the bus. Kie wasn't playing well. Jay certainly didn't play well. Sam was missing a lot of open jumpers that he normally makes. Trey Murphy, 3 sticks, who I say was an X factor for this basketball team, he didn't play great either. In fact, Trey down the stretch has really struggled. Trey, mid-season, was a projected lottery pick. You go to NBADraft.net. I'll give you the website again, NBADraft.net, and you see Trey's draft stock has fallen more than 50, maybe 60 places since the middle of the season. So what's next for Virginia basketball? Well, Jay's gone. Jay Huff's gone. That's a tough way to finish your career. Sam Hauser is gone as well. Thomas Woolden-Tensai is gone as well. The two guys, Huff and Hauser, are going to be tough to replace. Let's cut to the chase. They will be tough to replace. This Virginia basketball team relied upon 2 transfers into the program, Sam Hauser and Trey Murphy III. Those 2 transfers were key players on this basketball team. I wonder if Tony Bennett is going to continue to emphasize the transfer route when building his basketball roster. That's a fair question to ask. This Hoops team has a lot that it needs to replace from a scoring standpoint. You're going to lose Jay and Sam, arguably your top 2 scorers. So replacing that scoring talent is going to be critically important. Virginia basketball's got a pretty empty cupboard right now. When you say things like your top 2 returning scorers are Trey Murphy III and Kie Clark, you know the cupboard is pretty empty from a scoring standpoint. I have absolute confidence and faith in Tony Bennett. My faith and confidence, my passion for this Virginia basketball team will never, ever waver. This man, undoubtedly the right guy for the job. I'm going to watch very curiously as he replenishes the cupboard, whether it's through the transfer route or it's through taking some of the young talent on the roster and making it a little bit better. Now, what does a UVA basketball loss mean for the Charlottesville economy? Folks, it's a really big deal. It's a really big deal. And I don't want to underestimate this or overestimate this. Remember, we're trying to come out of COVID. We already know graduation is going to be a shadow of its former self. We had Daniel Kaufman, the owner of Public, the co-owner of Pronto, the co-owner of the Bottle House, in studio on Friday. And he straight up said, we rely on graduation as one of our key weekends to take us into the black after a long winter in the red. So when Virginia basketball loses in the first round, this is what happens around the Central Virginia community. Less folks that are passionate Virginia basketball fans like me will head out to watering holes to support this team. It's just a fact, okay? So having a strong football, basketball, baseball team, those 3 sports in particular, you can add baseball, you can add soccer and lacrosse in there, kind of at the tier right below it. Having strong those 5 programs not only creates passion and interest in the university, not only drives fundraising dollars for the athletic department, not only creates a higher level of applications or kids wanting to apply to get into the school, but it also drives the local economy in Charlottesville and around Central Virginia. When Virginia basketball, for example, is playing well, we're willing to go out to the bars and spend money for beers and wings and fries and burgers and whatever it may be. When teams like Virginia are not playing in the tournament, We instead choose to save money and watch these other teams at home on the comfort of our couch. So let's not underestimate the value of a strong basketball team in a deep tournament run. Remember when Virginia won the NCAA championship? All the bars were crowded. All the restaurants were packed. We were singing and celebrating in the streets outside Boylan Heights. Now what do? Now who do we root for? Now why do we go to watch the games? Is it Gonzaga? Is it Florida State? Is it Baylor? Who do we pull for now that we don't have a tie in this program? So please realize that when teams like Virginia do well, it's not just good for the athletic department. It's not just good for us as fans of the orange and blue. It's not just good for driving applications, new first years wanting to get into the school, but it undoubtedly positively impacts our economy in Central Virginia. And right now, our economy in Central Virginia needs more positive impacts than ever. All right, if you have any comments you want to add, put them in the feed now. I will relay them on air. For example, Johnny Ornalis, who owns El Mariachi and Guadalajara on Fontaine, he just put this comment in the comment section. Jerry, the Guadalajara on Fontaine, all employees have had their second dose from a vaccination standpoint. Johnny, congratulations, man. Your entire Guadalajara restaurant on Fontaine's been vaccinated. That is awesome, dude. I am so happy for you guys. I will relay your comments on air. Bashir, welcome to the broadcast, my friend. Thank you for joining us. Grace is watching the show. Grace is the best. She's watching in Crozet. We love when your family watches this program. Judah, the next topic I want to get to on the I Love Seville show is some real estate talk, okay? The Music Resource Center, the building right there, it was a former church right next to the Lewis and Clark statue, is now for sale. Asking price about $1.8 million. The interesting aspect of this building, the Music Resource team said, we put this building on the market as soon as we saw the Greyhound bus buildings go on the market for sale. They saw the two buildings right next door to them go on the market, so they said, now it's time for us to list ours as well. Probably pretty good thinking. Can you imagine running a music resource building when the buildings next to you are for sale, potentially purchased, and then redeveloped from a construction standpoint? That's going to impact music, having construction next door. Furthermore, if you can get a good price for the Greyhounds, the Music Resource Center building is a comparable. That will drive value for that building. Here's what I'm going to try to do with today's show, what I'm going to try to do with the show on Wednesday. Wednesday, we will welcome Nick Ward to the show. Nick Ward is a senior equity analyst for Wide Moat Research. We're going to pick 6 or 8 properties around Charlottesville, 6 or 8 of them. We're going to say, this is the Music Resource Building. It's listed for $1.8 million. And then we're going to pick it apart like Thanksgiving turkey. We're going to say, this is the Greyhound Building. It's listed for X amount of millions. We're going to pick it apart like Thanksgiving turkey. That building on the downtown mall that houses the Bank of America ATM, currently listed, I think, for 1.3 by Lee Hughes. We'll pick that one apart like Thanksgiving turkey. There's a lot of commercial real estate in Charlottesville that is overpriced. And it's owners that think, hey, I got a piece of the downtown mall. This is priceless. I can command top dollar for it. The reality is a lot of these buildings are getting long in the tooth, a lot of hair on the listing. They ain't moving because the price isn't right. We'll welcome a guy in Nick Ward to the program who does this professionally for a living to try to figure out the true value of these properties so we can educate you. Now, a couple things from my standpoint. Music Resource Building and the 2 Greyhound buildings next to it, they would make a phenomenal tag team purchase. Can you imagine if you're able to get all 3, if you're a deep-pocketed investor? If you're able to get all 3 of those, what could you build there? What could you build there? What do we need more of in Charlottesville? Okay, and you're going to hate to hear this, but we probably need some more hotels. Yes, there's a hotel right across the street from the Music Resource Center. Okay, yes, there's a hotel right across the street from the Greyhound. But when Charlottesville's clicking, it's under-hoteled. I would not be surprised if you see another hotel there. What else could you see there? Maybe apartments? What else could you see there? Office space? What else could you see there? Some kind of innovative think tank? I mean, it's literally at the entry point of the downtown mall. And whether or not the West Main Streetscape project happens, who knows? The budget is in so much shambles, this $52 million project may not happen after all. Regardless, we know that the city is going to dig up the underground infrastructure to improve it. So regardless, West Main is going to be a construction zone for a little while once the city starts digging up the lines underneath the ground. Once that is done, these three properties, the Music Resource Center and the two Greyhound buildings, will be what people see when they go into downtown Charlottesville, driving from UVA, from Midtown, to enjoy the best 8 blocks in the city, which is the downtown mall. This property, extremely valuable, and it has tremendous potential. Greyhound currently owns the two Greyhound buildings, the company Greyhound, okay? They have the terminal and the other building. Can you imagine being the owner of public transportation during a pandemic? Who is willing to get on a Greyhound bus during COVID with strangers and drive up and down the eastern seaboard and stop at various Greyhound bus stops and welcome other strangers on the bus? Everyone breathing and inhaling the same air. We think movie theaters are distressed right now, right? We think airplanes are distressed right now because of COVID. Imagine a bus going from Charlottesville to New York, stopping at stops along the way to welcome other people into a tin can that has poor ventilation. There is no coincidence that Greyhound is selling its two buildings in Charlottesville on the heels of a pandemic. I can think of very few industries that are more in precarious positions than a tin can bus driving people from state to state to state and putting strangers on buses to breathe the same air, right? That's what's happening. Greyhound is in the pooper. You know what else is in the pooper? Trolleys, public transportation. You know why? That's why I just invested I do a lot of investing from a stock standpoint. That's why I just invested in Uber and Lyft. I think human behavior has changed to the point that we are going to be less willing to get on buses, trolleys, and other public transport, and instead, the folks that need to get around town are going to spend a little extra money to get their own Uber or a Lyft where they don't have to be in a bus or a trolley with strangers. I think those stocks will pop. Time will tell. So a lot we've covered so far. The Music Resource Building for sale for $1.8 million. Johnny Pritzloff and Jenny Stoner have that listing. 302, 304 West Main Street. That's the Greyhound Terminal. I'm looking at it right now. 302, 304 West Main Street has been assessed just under $2 million at $1,955,000. The other Greyhound building next to them is 316 West Main Street, and that's been assessed at $853,000. So let's call it $850 for the smaller Greyhound building. Let's call it $2 million for the larger one. That's $2,850,000 assessment-wise. And they want $1.8 for the Music Resource Center. Let's just, for the sake of math, call it an even 2. So 2 plus 285 is 485. Let's take away $300K, $350K for a savvy negotiator. I think you can get the Music Resource Building and the two Greyhound buildings for a combined $4.5, $4.3 million. $4.5, $4.3 million for 3 buildings sounds like a lot of money. But we know in Charlottesville, there are so many super wealthy people in here that $4.3, $4.5 million is like, $500 for me and you, right? And these 3 buildings literally are the three most visible when you're driving from the university down West Main Street to the downtown mall. For three to own three of the most important buildings on West Main Street, the potential you can do if you synergize those in some capacity is absolutely out of this world. We'll talk about that with Nick Ward at 12:30 on Wednesday, Senior Equity Analyst at Wide Moat Research. I want to get his take on the value proposition of these three buildings and the potential return on investment for someone who's willing to pay north of $4 million for it. Let's talk residential real estate on the program. It's no secret that we don't have enough housing stock. And it's not unique to Central Virginia, it's everywhere. Let's go to the National Association of Realtors, Judah Wickower, for the statistic. I'm gonna give you three stats, okay? Three little factoids for you before I give you my take. Closed sales of existing homes in February dropped a larger than expected 6.6% compared to January, according to the National Association of Realtors. That put closed home sales at a seasonally adjusted annualized rate of 6.22 million units, which was 9.1% higher compared to February of 2020. Let's throw out February of 2020, okay? It's right before the pandemic, okay? One more stat for you. The supply of homes for sale fell almost 30% year over year, the largest annual decline ever, to 1.3 million units. I'm going to give you that statistic again. The supply of homes for sale fell nearly 30% year over year. That is the largest annual decline ever. Those stats from the National Association of Realtors. So let's talk about how we solve this. Well, QB, Quentin Beckham, CAR president of Keller Williams, good friend of the program. He was in the Daily Progress, and he's like, we got to consider a zoning change. Let's consider the city of Charlottesville, only the city of Charlottesville. More than half of the property in the city of Charlottesville is zoned single-family detached R1. That means more than half the property in our town, in the city of Charlottesville, can only have a single-family house built upon it. As a result, Quentin, who's now the CAR president, and part of his job is to drive attention to circumstances that are going on in our area, he reiterated the need to consider a zoning change in Central Virginia, whether that's the city, whether that's the county, to allow more housing stock to be built. I am all for this. I am all for someone, a family, an individual, a couple, whatever it may be, earning their own piece of the American pie, the American dream. And to this day, a portion of that American dream still includes the white picket fence, the backyard, a 30-year mortgage, and home ownership. Unfortunately, in Charlottesville, and certainly in Albemarle County only allows 5% of its land to be utilized for residential or a commercial development. Only 5% of Albemarle can have development on it. Think about that, right? Think about it, okay? So here we have Charlottesville, half the land, half the residential is zoned for single-family detached. Here we have the county of Albemarle. Only 5% of Albemarle in totality is allowed to be developed. We have two municipalities in the city and the county that are hotspots. People want to go here. They fell in love with the city and the county just like I did as a student at the University of Virginia. They realized that the hospitals are fantastic. They realized that there's tech innovation here. There's restaurants for all of us to enjoy. We're saturated with restaurants. Corin Capshaw's built the music scene. Tony Bennett, Bronco, Brian O'Connor have built UVA sports into a juggernaut, into a behemoth for those of us that love sports. We got hiking. We got mountain biking. We got music. We got food. We got a strong economy. We got good schools. We got quality of life. We got the university. If local government doesn't screw these things up, we got a phenomenal place to live, right? All that is creating this this snowball effect here. You got people choosing to move here with bags of money. You don't have enough housing stock. You got cool things happening everywhere. And you've got a large portion of the Central Virginia population that's trying to limit development and keep zoning changes from happening because they don't want to deal with traffic. And they know if they keep zoning changes from happening, the homes they own will continue to uptick in value because they're limiting supply at a time when demand is through the roof. This is a catch-22 of epic proportions. Here's why. Often, the folks who are NIMBYs or against more housing are the ones, unfortunately, that are deep-pocketed, that are organized, that have time on their hands, that own homes, and can band together, organize, lobby the Board of Supervisors, lobby the City Council, be the loudest voices in the room, and say things like, if you want to get reelected, you keep this stuff from happening. That literally is happening now. So how do we solve a conundrum? And the conundrum is as simple as this. People want to live here, they want to own homes, and they want to do it in a rate that they can afford. Marketplace dynamics are keeping that from happening. Whether it's a Dillon rule state where the Board of Supervisors and the city councilors of Charlottesville really don't have the autonomy or the authority to change zoning, or it's thousands of NIMBYs creating or keeping development from happening on 29 North or in Keswick. There's a lot of factors working against new development and new housing stock in Central Virginia. This is something that will not be solved overnight. Frankly, it's going to take years to solve. And the longer this takes to solve, the more expensive housing becomes. And those that own homes, your values will continue to uptick. Those that don't, the barrier of entry is just getting more difficult and more difficult and more difficult. We'll talk about some of this with Keith Smith. It's something that needs to be put in the news cycle. It's something that needs to be prioritized. I don't see it changing anytime soon. I hate to say that. When you only allow 5% of a county to have commercial and residential development on it, of course the houses in that county are going to become too expensive, right? We'll talk about it with Keith on the show in about 10 minutes. A couple of other items I want to get out of the notebook after the interview with Keith. I had a fabulous experience at Shadwell's restaurant in Keswick. The ownership team at Shadwell's used their PPP money to build a phenomenal outside patio. I mean, it is truly beautiful. This patio was popping yesterday. We'll talk about that. My family and I went there and enjoyed oyster extravaganza. Some margaritas, some cold beers, some beignets, a phenomenal experience at Shadwell's. I was impressed with how the ownership team took the PPP money, built this patio, had it done right in time for the warm weather, and they will see return on investment because they took that risk. I also want to remind you that the 6th of April, a Tuesday at 12:30, we will host the most watched debate in Charlottesville, Virginia history, and it won't even be close. 2 of the 4 people that are in this debate will win a spot on Charlottesville City Council. It's going to be the 6th of April, a Tuesday at 12:30 p.m., and will be moderated by Kathy Galvin. I will host it. All 4 Democrats in the House. We're going to ask questions that matter, questions that will impact the community. Mark your calendar for the 6th of April at 12:30. It's a debate that will literally show you what the candidates are all about as we head to a June 8th Democratic primary and a November 3rd general election. Judah Wickhauer, I'm going to reach out to Keith Smith now. Vanessa Parkhill, welcome to the broadcast. Lily Humbert, welcome to the broadcast. Mark Brown, hello and welcome to the broadcast. Thank you very much for watching. Scott Aaronworth, Katie Wakeman, Wanda Wan, Rondell Washington, Steve Harvey, and Will Nafi, welcome to the broadcast. I see 4 states, Virginia Beach, Richmond, Albemarle, Crozet, Northern Virginia, Southwestern Virginia, all watching the show as we speak. Keith Smith on the line, Judah Wickower. He's the distinguished gentleman, the star of Real Talk, Tuesdays and Fridays, 10:15 a.m. on the I Love Seville network. So, Keith, a lot I got to cover with you so far. National Association of Realtors released some statistics that I want to throw to you, some statistics that I know you follow and cover really, really well. Month over month, January versus February, sales fell about 6.6%. Let's start with that topic first, my friend. What did you make of these metrics?
Well, I think that's a clear demonstration of a lack of inventory, right? There's just nothing to sell. I'll just give you an example. Young and I had an open house on a home that you were kind enough to push out for us. We showed up at 1:45, and there was 12 couples waiting to get into that house at 1:45. So it's just indicative that there is more buyers than there are product to buy. And by the way, you're doing a great job on the show. I feverishly been taking notes. So, as usual, I love my Monday times with you because I'm trying to catch up with notes, and you're firing so darn fast. So
thank you so much. Can I throw this to you? Sure. What was the temperature and the mood of all those folks that visited the open house? Like, what were they saying? What were you hearing? You're a great read of people, and I know this stuff is important to you because it's indication of the marketplace, what people are saying or hearing. What were they saying to you?
So it's an interesting, you should ask that question. What they're saying, it's kind of a double-edged sword. They're excited about that, but they're also super frustrated because you're constantly hearing, I've lost 5 deals, right? I've lost 6 deals. I've lost 2 deals on an opportunity. So there's that, but then they're just excited to go ahead and do this. And we were kind of beta testing this open house because we wanted to do just that, to get a temperature for what was out there. We're going to talk a little bit tomorrow on Real Talk about, has this vibe started changing overall? I'll give you a quick example. Young and I on Friday tried to go out at 7:30 in the evening to go get dinner. I couldn't find the table. I was super disappointed, but super excited. So I think the temperature is changing. The vibe is starting to change out there.
For the folks that showed up to the open house, you said 12 different parties 15 minutes before you got there waiting to get in. Are they at the point where they know as soon as they walk in, they got to come ready to go, or they're not going to scoop it up?
Well, I can tell you before open house, we had multiple offers on the table.
Before the actual open house?
Before the actual open house.
So does that mean the multiple offers are coming in before people are seeing it, or it's just the agent went and showed them the property on their own?
No, so we went live on Thursday, so these were showings that happened between then and Friday. I think part of the strategy for that is they wanted it to go into contract before it went into open house, and in our best, in order to get the most exposure for our client, we felt an open house was a great idea, which it turned out to be. It was a tremendous amount of traffic. It was also a beautiful day, right? Beautiful day to go out and look at homes.
So you do policy, you lobby, you do real estate, you do development. I mean, you wear a lot of hats here. Explain the Dillon Rule state and the fact that the county and the city really don't have this autonomy to potentially change zoning to create more housing stock. Is that accurate?
Oh, well, I'll put my politician hat on. Yes and no.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So the bottom line is to understand about the Dillon Rule that the tool chest available, the tool sets available to any jurisdiction is dictated by the state. Right, so if it doesn't exist at the state level, then it cannot be implemented at the local jurisdiction level. So if it's not in the toolbox, they can't use it. So that's why certain things have to run through the state process in order to be implemented at the local level. And I just a quick thing to jump in on the church. On Bridge Street, I did a quick research on it. It's actually in a it's in an independent historical district, right? So in other words, the people that own that put it into the historical preservation district. One of my brother-in-law and your friend put in the feed, so I'm just answering that question. It does have some historical context to it.
So I had this statement made to me over the weekend, okay? And it was about our show, the show you do, okay? We're having a birthday party for our little boy. There's 15 or so families over. One of the dads watches the network religiously. He's an investor, really loves your show because we talk real estate. I mean, let's be honest, that's why he loves it. And he said, literally to me, I'm not going to say his name. It wouldn't be fair to him. But he said, Jerry, stop chomping at the bit to change the zoning and get more housing stock on the market. We're all homeowners here, and as long as things stay the same, all our property values will uptick. And for most of us, this is our number one piece of investment in our portfolio. Just let them go up 5 to 8, 9% every year, and let's just reap the benefits. And he said that to me, and my mouth went agape. I mean, I was almost floored by this.
I'm trying not to do that right now.
But then I reflected and thought about it, and I said, it's his opinion. Is not necessarily wrong that if the housing stock is limited, his value is going to go up, right? So he's seeing it strictly from a me standpoint and not from a community standpoint.
I'm not so sure about that. I just think it's a matter of education, right? And I don't have stats with me to quote at this point in time, and this could be a great show. And I've been taking notes, and we need to do a NIMBYism versus YIMBYism roundtable, bring two folks from different sides of the opinion on that and do that and it's difficult to get folks put together. But I think if you take the time to do the research, and Neil might chime in on this, Neil Williamson of the Free Enterprise Forum, I don't think that's true. I don't think increased density does decrease your value. I don't see how that equates. I don't have the data to back it up, but it may feel that way, but I'm not so sure the data supports that.
So you're basically saying if we increase the housing stock, that does not necessarily mean
No.
Walk me through that.
Well, I don't have the data to walk you through it, and I'm not prepared to do that. I'd have to get that put together for when we come on the show to answer that question. But the data I read from NAR and all this stuff does not necessarily support that to be the case. So density increase does not in itself decreases the value of your property value. I mean, otherwise than that, places like New York City would go down, right, as people move into it. So, but I can't speak to it intelligently because I don't have the data in front of me. But I can assure you, I don't think that's an exact correlation.
He added
I don't think it's a straight line from A to B. There's many different things in the middle of that.
Okay. He added this statement. Aaron King, I miss you too. I'm a big fan of you. You know that. He also said this. Increasing the density is going to increase the congestion around here. Do we want to sit in more traffic?
Well, that's a reasonable question and a reasonable statement. That makes sense. So, again, that goes back to that this is not a chicken and an egg kind of thing. And we talk about this all the time. One thing never affects one thing. One thing affects many different things. So, of course, you have to look at this thing holistically. And I always talk about the trifecta, right? Increased density, increased traffic, and education, right? You've got to look at those three thing. But we had a great conversation on Friday with Nelson County. Nelson County has only 60% capacity according to Jesse Rutherford, so they have room in that, right? But they may have some infrastructure issues that we have to work through. None of these things. This is extremely complex topics, and we try at the best on Real Talk anyway to try to digest them in more digestible and understanding.
Neil Williamson is watching the program. He shared a link to a Free Enterprise Forum link. Rodney Dangerfield on development in Albemarle County. And he also shared the link that I read from the Daily Progress with our friend Quentin Beckham, who I think is doing a hell of a job.
Well, I was texting him live trying to get him to come on the show tomorrow. We'll see how that goes.
Give us this perspective. what does the president of CAR do? In particular, coming out of a pandemic, in particular in a region where supply is so diminished?
Wow. I don't have an answer to that question, but I will tell you that he's trying to tackle that maybe previous presidents have not. And if you take a look at the history of that, typically previous presidents of the association were not so vocal about this type of topic. So I'm encouraged that he's doing that, and I want to give him the opportunity to talk about that as much as possible on our network and on our show. But look, I think and I'm going to switch my hat to the chairman of the Regional Housing Partnership, because we had a really great zoning conversation last week. I know according to your audience, this is a small number, but for us, we had 100 people on there, which I've never had any more than 5 or 10. So this topic is going good. Actually, next month I'm going to talk about rezoning pro formas, how this stuff actually costs, and how do we get to providing affordable housing. But I think the best thing he can do is what he's doing, is use his voice, right? And that awesome jacket he wears too. That makes him use
The Alton Lane salmon jacket. I love Quentin's jacket with the Grateful Dead heads inside, right? This is the Grateful Dead.
It could be something else. I don't know.
Both Keith and I are huge fans of QB. So
We are.
Talk to me, my friend. I mean, March is over. We're heading into April. This is traditionally gangbusters. We knew the spring market sprung in January and not spring this year.
They've sprung in December.
Yeah, right. In December. It sprung before the year turn.
That is correct.
What's your prediction for the rest of the year, my friend?
Well, it's interesting. So I was just looking at some quick numbers before you called me on, and right now is 280 units. So that they're coming off as quick as they can. Have a better time to sell because you're going to get as much money. We're about ready to list a couple of homes very quickly with your find something to move into. But at the end of the day, I think you're going to see the number of units kind of dwindling down a little bit because there's just not enough inventory, right? There's more buyers than there are sellers, and I just think you're going to start seeing a little bit more of a settlement down of sales. I may be wrong. You and I called it a year ago, the V, right? I think you're going to see a little bit more of a flat market going forward until more product comes on the line. That's just the way it's going to be.
Here's an interesting comment for you.
Sure.
Okay. This is from Brian Callahan. Jerry, I watch your show all the time. Please ask he called you Mr. Smith.
Please call me Keith. Don't call me Mr.
He said, please ask Mr. Smith this question. He says, we live in Orange County. We've lived here for 10 years. We have no plans on moving. It seems to us and our neighbors, the frustration people are having in Albemarle and Charlottesville is creating a lot of value for us here in Orange in our subdivision. Is this fair?
See if you can digest that a different way. Try to ask that question a little bit different because I lost a little bit of pieces of that.
So I think what Brian is saying is like people can't either afford to live in Albemarle or Charlottesville or can't find a house in Albemarle or Charlottesville. So it's making his town and his subdivision in Orange County extremely popular, which is driving the values of his house and his neighbor's house. Is his analysis right?
It is. So that this is this drive to you qualify comment that we keep on talking about, which I absolutely hate. But that's what's happening here. And what's happening here, and that's what you're going to see. I can't disclose too many details, but I help represent some major developers and builders, and they're requesting of me to look outside this 5%, right? And it's for multiple reasons. One, the land is there. The path is a little bit easier because they're more receptive to it. In some cases, we talk about this on the other side of the mountain. The infrastructure's there already. They have the schools, they have the hospital, they have the roads, they have the water and sewer, right? So they're encouraging development in there. But the gentleman is spot on. You know, it is increasing pressures on the outside because, you know, they have to go to the qualifying. We had this conversation before about raising gas prices, right? And my take on it is, unfortunately, you know, I think maybe the discretionary dollars will go away, but people will be buying homes out in Orange instead of going to the restaurant. They're just going to be using that money that they were going to do for the restaurant for fuel. Now, EVs are a whole different subject, which is super exciting. And actually, one of these national builders I'm talking to are talking about putting EV as standard plugins in their homes, which would be super cool.
Christopher Barner has a question for you. Jerry asked Keith if he would go Fluvanna, green, or orange for a home buy. It would be our first home purchase.
I would suggest Fluvanna. It depends on the price point, and it depends on what exactly you know what your needs are. So we'd have to really talk about that and figure out what your needs are and what your potential growth is. So in other words, you're going to stay in the home for 5 years or 10 years, or this is my forever home, right? We would probably have that question and answer period. But you and I talk about this all the time. I can tell you, Fluvanna County is on track to produce somewhere between 300 and 600 more new home lots, right? Just the projects I'm involved in. And, you know, we're seeing this at Lake Monticello, and it's cost effective. People can move into it. And, you know, the other part of it is the quality of life thing, right? You know, we love the lake. We've been living there since '87. Right, you know, raised both my daughters there. We can go water skiing. We can go to the beaches. We can play golf, assuming you play golf. We play tennis. I know you're a big racket guy, right? They have tennis, Brenda, and they just invested almost $4 million in upgrading all their facilities. So they're all now state of the art. The tennis courts are state of the art. The clubhouses are state of the art. It is one heck of a deal. But it really depends on what his needs are in his life. But we'd have to put those needs and the product and what's available together.
Jennifer Castro, Mr. Smith. Hey, his name is Keith. He likes Keith.
My name is Keith. Do not call me Mr. Smith. I look around for my father.
His name is Keith. His name is Keith. Jennifer Castro.
Most people call me other things other than that. So.
Jennifer Castro. Keith, is there a county in Central Virginia that you would stay away from?
I can't answer. That puts me in a bit of a spot ethically. Okay. It's going to go back to what are your needs, right? We have to make sure that if that county meets your needs, then we will talk about it. I can tell you of all the jurisdictions that surround Charlottesville, none of them is a bad deal at this point. There's no reason I can't think of. But the thing is that your family might need Nelson County instead of Lake Monticello, right? Or your family's needs might be in Augusta County instead of Greene County. So I can tell you of all the jurisdictions that we work with around here, I can't honestly think of one that you would want to stay away from. Nor ethically I could say that.
Okay. This is a good question here. Jennifer Kraling.
Yes.
Jennifer Kraling. Keith, she said...
No, Mr. Smith. Thank you, Jennifer.
She said, our family's lost out on a couple homes that we really wanted. Should we now be shifting our attention to townhomes or condos because the single-family detached homes, the standalone homes, are out of our price range?
You know, that's a great question. Again, all these questions, you know, I would need to have a one-on-one conversation to really understand what your needs are, or if you're working with a realtor, that realtor will help you with that. Strictly from a monetary perspective, I'll tell your story, right? So if you can get into an ownership model now, even if it's a townhome and it's not your forever home, it's not your perfect home, To go back to the question of the gentleman you met in Glenmore, or wherever you were at that point in time. Look, the reality of it is we historically raise, no matter what the density is, between 4 and 6%. Right now it's through the roof, right? It's closer to 10 or 12%. But you can count on this 4 to 6% even when the Great Depression was hitting. So my advice to be is to get into a home. You're never going to see money as cheap as this. My first home was 18%. So just to put it into perspective as far as mortgage thing in it. Make this your timeout for the moment. Raise your equity. Double pay, triple pay your payments a year or whatever it is. We can talk about what that means. But start building up your equity, just like you did, right? You used the equity from that house to start this, what we're talking to each other on, right? This business you started, right? Which is awesome. But my advice is get in as fast as possible. It may not be perfect, but you will increase your value easily 4 to 6% year over year. Then maybe the market will cool down a little bit, sell it, and then move laterally over to a single family.
Is the 4 to 6% the rule of thumb across the board, depending on what kind of house it is, or is that more standalone R1?
It's across the board. Some of them will float up and down this way, but if you historically take out of it, that's kind of how that process kind of goes through. Right now, we're a little here. In the Great Housing Depression, we were here, right? So right now, I believe the national average is somewhere around $17,000. I may have the number exactly off. Year over year, people have increased equity in 2020. Look, the reality of it is it will increase. It'll increase, and the quickest way to go ahead and help your family, help yourself, and I know you do this, the Smith does this, we pay 2 extra full payments a year to our principal, and that cuts a 30-year mortgage down to like 18 months.
18 years.
3, that's great. 18 years, thank you, sir. That was a little too much. Sorry. If you can make 3, but the more you do that, you're paying yourself, and your equity is increasing, right? And then you write that that's the reason why the land trust model works so much. You build this equity, and then you can take 50,000, 25,000, whatever it is. Because today, to get into a new first-time home buy, it's almost 0 down payment, right? As far as the process goes. This is a great conversation. I had no idea we were going to talk about this.
It's a testament to him. He's able to adapt on the fly because this was not the plan when we had him on the show. It's just the interest is there. I'm going to save these questions for tomorrow. We have 2 more coming in, guys. We're past 1:30 here. We'll save these for tomorrow. Real Talk, 10:15 a.m. tomorrow. How about a preview of tomorrow's show, Mr. Smith? Keith.
I think you just did it. I'm going to try to bring in Quentin Beckham to talk a little bit about his article and talk a little bit about that. But what I wanted to do was throw out to the feed that, hey, are you starting to feel this vibe change? And let's talk and do exactly what we just did and have some two-way conversations. So the people that have some questions or want to ask questions about this, please watch tomorrow at 10:15 and we'll tackle these the best way we can.
Keith Smith, a.k.a. the Distinguished Gentleman, a.k.a. Mr. Smith, a.k.a. the Executive Producer. 10:15 a.m. tomorrow, 10:15 a.m. Friday. Yes, Team Realtors. Yes, Realty Partners. My friend, you're the best.
And the better 1/8 of the couple of Keith Smith and Uva Smith. That's my favorite time.
A.k.a. 1/8 of the Smith tag team partnership right there. Tell Yona, I'll see Yona shortly, right?
Yeah, she actually thought we were doing this meeting and she was about ready to sit down. I'm like, no.
11 minutes.
Oh, okay, I'll go get Mrs. Smith. I'll see you in 11 minutes.
Good to see you, my friend.
Hey, I always love every single minute I spend with you, and I'm going to give you a shout out. I put it in the feed. You were talking about what makes Charlottesville great. You know what makes Charlottesville, one of the things that makes Charlottesville great? The I Love Charlottesville Network.
Thank you, Keith.
Was that a good plug?
That was very good. You've become a very good broadcaster. You have a good day, my friend. I'll talk to you soon.
I love you, brother.
Take care. Keith Smith, guys. Yes, Team Realtors. Couple things. We'll relay our story to you. So, 2008 2008, I'm renting a home on Little Graves in Belmont. This is behind Spud Nuts, the old Spud Nuts. It's me, my buddy Tom, my buddy Shannon, and my buddy Henny. We're fresh out of college, 2 years removed from college. All of us are broke. I mean, broke. It was a 2-bedroom house. We took this kind of like this Four Seasons room and converted it to a bedroom. So we took a 2-bedroom house, made it a 3-bedroom without the landlord knowing, put my buddy in this converted Four Seasons room, and we did that so we could take $1,000 on Belmont, a house that was running for $1,000 in Belmont, and instead of me and Mike paying $500 each, we put our buddy Tom in this converted Four Seasons room without the landlord knowing, and then that knocked the price down to $333 a person for rent. We still had utilities, water, cable, electricity, etc. So $333 a person. We still didn't have any money to go to the bars and talk to pretty girls and close down the bars and have happy hour and all the stuff that early 20s and mid-20s people want to do. So we had the brilliant idea of welcoming our buddy Shannon to the house. And we persuaded Shannon to rent the attic. And we said, Shannon, you can take the attic and you'll only get charged $200. Now, it was probably an even number for 3 of us. It was $210 a month. That $210 a month for Shannon to get the attic took our $333 a month down $70 each. So we all got an extra $70. Shannon got a spot to live for $210. Now, Shannon had to climb a rope ladder to get into the attic, literally a rope ladder to get into the attic, because the attic didn't have the drop-down staircase, okay? So he climbed a rope ladder to get in there. He put some fans up there to handle the heat. He put heaters up there to handle the cold. He got a bed up there somehow. Somehow managed to get pretty girls to go up to the attic, climbing the rope ladder up there with him. So here are 4 dudes living in Little Graves in Belmont, behind Spud Nuts, stumbling to and from the downtown mall, hopefully chatting with pretty gals. And at that point, it's 2008, I said, I'm going to take a chance. I'm going to buy a place. I didn't have any money, had very little money. In 2008, mortgage brokers were giving loans to every Tom, Dick, and Harry. I guess I should say every Tom, Dick, Harry, and Jerry. I was one of those guys who got one of those loans. I ended up buying a condo, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and a den in the Villas at Southern Ridge down 5th Street Extended. It was a 5-phase build-out. These were apartments that were converted to condos. And in 2008, the Villas at Southern Ridge was a place you didn't really go to. It was sketchy. It was crime-ridden. It was just not a very savory part of Albemarle County. So I bought a 1,200 square foot condo, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and a den in phase 1 of this development. There are 5 phases. Each of the 5 phases was going to have somewhere between $5,000 and $10,000 of built-in equity. Meaning in phase 1, you got the price for this. Phase 2, the price went up $10K. Phase 3, the price went up $10K. Phase 4, the price went up $10K. Phase 5, the price went up $10K. The people who got in phase 1 got the benefit or earned the return on investment of these $10,000 increases for each additional phase. Well, here's what happened. In 2008, the economy crapped out. We had a recession, and it was tied to housing. The 2008 recession was undoubtedly tied to housing. So phase 1, while it was the lowest price, while it was supposed to be the lowest price of all the 5 phases, phase 1 ended up being the highest price of all the 5 phases, because the developer, who's out of Virginia Beach and has no ties to Charlottesville and does not have to see the people who bought in phase 1, because the people who bought in phase 1 obviously would be pissed off with the developer, who then took phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, and phase 5 and cut the price, immediately diminishing the value of anyone who purchased in phase 1. Are you with me? That's what happened to me. 2008, I choose to quit my career as a broadcaster for ESPN, as a broadcaster for NBC 29, as a sports writer and editor at the Daily Progress. I quit my career despite my family begging me not to do it, and I launched this business out of this condominium. Long story short, I had no clients for 6 months. I had to welcome friends into the condominium. It was a 3-bedroom. I had the master. There was 2 others that were empty. I had to welcome 2 friends to rent these 2 rooms below market value. They got hooked up. Rent was below market. But that $800 they gave me a month literally was how I was able to keep the mortgage and keep from losing the mortgage page and keep from losing this condominium. That's how bad things were in 2008 for me. I was doing all kinds of side hustles, hosting I Love Seaville trivias 4 nights a week at the Millmont Grill, at the Lazy Parrot backyard. I'm a good pool player, billiards, pool. I was hustling pool around town just to make $100, $200 a week of pocket change. And I was at the point where I'm like, I think I may lose this property. Long story short, we get a couple of good clients. Annie McClure owns a bunch of restaurants in town. Marina Ringstrom was one of our early clients. And then these people start telling other people. And our book of business starts building. And that condo, I was a whisker's hair away from losing this condo and defaulting on the mortgage. That condo now is a rental property in a portfolio of nearly 20,000 square feet and 27 tenants. That condo is cash flow positive and potentially something I can pass down to my son. What I learned from this experience is buy something that if you need to rent, the rent that you can earn will cover your mortgage if the you-know-what hits the fan. That's what I learned. What I also learned is the value of real estate ownership. I owned it so I could rent out the places to my buddies. You can't always do that if you're not the owner. There's oftentimes subleasing language in leases that keep you from doing that. What I learned is a piece of property can become a piggy bank or a savings account. And you can utilize that piggy bank and savings account for what you need to do. Now, I never took a HELOC against it, never pulled any money out of it. But what I did was rent the 2 rooms, use the money from those 2 rooms to basically cover the mortgage, which was $1,005 is my mortgage on that piece of property. $5 over $1,000. If you're getting $800, that means you're just responsible for $205, and then you got the mortgage covered. So I guess if you learn something from that experience, and we know this, 99.9% of the time, owning is better than renting. It might not be easy to buy, but if you can do it, it'll help you start building some kind of wealth that you didn't have before. Renting, you're just paying your landlord's mortgage. Owning, eventually the debt's going to be paid off and you got an asset free and clear. That's what I learned from that experience. I learned that really early on. That piece of property, when I bought it, was $180K. Not only was it $180,000, but getting a loan was so easy then. Now, finding something that's $180K is going to be difficult. And getting loans, not as easy it was in 2008. So I'm empathetic for the plight you have as a first-time home buyer. I truly am. I want to close on this because I'm late for a conference call. I'm going to be off here in 20 seconds. Krispy Kreme Donuts is doing a promotion right now where if you go to any Krispy Kreme in America, heck, it might be the world, and you show proof of vaccination, you get a free donut. That donut costs Krispy Kreme nothing. That's a loss leader. No one's going to come just for one donut and leave. They'll probably buy coffee, a dozen donuts, something else. It's called a loss leader. I want to encourage the small and medium-sized businesses, especially in the restaurant space, to do something similar. Show proof of vaccination, and you get incentivized somehow. Okay? Make that incentive something that's a loss leader that will get people in your door spending money on other items on your menu, just like Krispy Kreme is doing. Not only will that drive revenue to your bottom line, but it will encourage Americans across the board to get vaccinated. And if we do that, consumer confidence will continue to uptick and this economy will turn around and a sense of normalcy will be around the corner. Please consider that as a marketing strategy that could benefit the community in totality. Krispy Kreme, I was impressed. I think they're the first F&B brand to do this. Am I missing one? I think Krispy Kreme's the first to say, proof of vaccination gets you this. I expect more will follow. And then lastly, before I get off air, April 6th, Tuesday, Kathy Galvin will host the Democratic debate, the most watched one in Charlottesville history on this network at 12:30. You're not going to want to miss that one, guys. That's the show. My name is Jerry Miller. Thank you for joining us on a glorious day to be alive. If you are above the mud, rejoice, because we're alive. I'm out of here. My name is Jerry Miller. Thank you for joining us. Take care.